First item on the agenda is, do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is recognition.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, wanted to recognize 4 students from Jonesville Middle School for their contributions to the Kingsport Times News drawing cards. Those 4 students for last month were Sam Hay, Jacqueline Hurd, Olivia Rutherford, and Skylar Webb.
Next is public comment. Anyone like to address the board? Okay, if we have no public comment, we'll move on to consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda with the following items. Approval of the minutes of the August 9th, 2016 special call meeting, August 10th, 2016 special call meeting, and August 11th special call meeting and regular meeting. Enrollment, approval of claims and expenditures, approval of Head Start screening and assessment, approval of Head Start service plans, approval of Head Start job descriptions, approval of Head Start home-based curriculum, approval of Head Start center curriculum, and approval of the school board policy SBP, JC, BR, school choice.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, reports of the board. Anybody have any reports?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
On August 24th, the Virginia Board of Education held a public hearing on student expectations, school accountability, and resources. They are currently working on profile of a Virginia graduate. They're finally deciding that students leaving school without needed requirements. And they are looking at changes that will necessitate recommendations to both the standards of quality and also to accreditation. It's not too late for input. You may go to the Virginia Department of Education webpage and see the information there, and I urge you to do that.
Any other board reports? I would just mention that a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Austin and I attended a meeting in Abington at the Higher Ed Center that involved the new Secretary of Education in Virginia and a couple of the Virginia Board of Education members. And Ms. Jessie was also there, so we were able to do that. And there was a round table first, and there was an open forum discussion with people allowed to address the board members. So we were able to do that and enjoyed going there. We'll next move on to reports of the division superintendent. First on that agenda issue is start of school.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, I want to point out that up on the screen on the left, we're displaying what is the new package, and you'll notice computers on the table for the first time, where board members are taking a look at electronic methods of conducting a meeting. The information that board members typically see in their packet is now available online, and this is available off of our website from school board to school board meetings, and that will link you into board docs, which you will be able to then see any of the meetings that we've conducted and any of the information that's contained in that is public information. So that being said, that's why you see computers on the table this evening, and it's moving in a positive direction with the use of technology in Lee County Public Schools. Next thing is start of school. We are off to I want to say a great start, had a very smooth start to the school year. First, we're through 3 weeks, and getting through Labor Day, we're getting a solid picture of enrollment, so that helps us with budget projections. But through 10-day enrollment, we were actually up over what we had budgeted. I'll talk to enrollment here in just a minute, but that's a good thing, and things are off to a very good start. Lots of positive things happening in our schools very early on, so excited about that. From an enrollment standpoint, as of August 31st, we are sitting at 3,061 students. That is up 11 students from what we had when we closed school, finished school in June. But on the negative side, it's down 11 from last year. But taking the positive aspect on this compared to other school divisions in the region, we are maintaining much better than others. From a budgetary standpoint, we are over 24 students over what we budgeted, so that's a good news from the revenue side, that we are in a good position there. Accreditation and SOL results. You have a handout. The Department of Education a couple of weeks ago released SOL results that are now in our report cards, and you'll notice that there's information contained here. Mr. Dean, Director of Instruction, has done a good job summarizing this for you as a presentation, and you'll see that almost all of our schools are fully accredited, so that's a testament to the quality of education that occurs in Lee County Public Schools on a daily basis, but also the efforts of our teachers. So any questions on that? Accreditation, SOL results. Next thing, request from Board of Supervisors, and a couple of weeks on the 20th, I'll be going to the Board of Supervisors to ask them to reappropriate monies that we discussed in July from FY16 to FY17 so that we can have access to those funds. That plan was presented to you again in July, and we're moving forward with that presenting to the Board of Supervisors. Just wanted to make you aware of that. Administration has been evaluating a lot of things, as well as teachers evaluating programs we use. During that process, one of the things that we're going to recommend is going to an accounts payable once per month. Currently, we run 3 accounts payable a month, and that's a bit tedious on staff, takes up a lot of time. So what we are proposing, what we're moving towards doing, is going to 1 accounts payable per month. We will notify vendors, work on our due dates so that we do not pay late fees, and we will make sure that we get bills paid in a timely fashion, but get to where we can use staff more effectively and more efficiently instead of running accounts payable pretty much every week. Next thing is online auction update. Great news on this front. In July, we had permission from the board to dispose of 3 buses. We disposed of those 3 buses earlier this week through the online auction. Again, on our website, I want to refer back to that. And if you scroll down, we have a link to surplus inventory for sale. There are various items on there. Anything over $500 requires school board approval. Items under $500 we can dispose of with superintendent's permission. So the permission we got was to dispose of 3 buses, and those 3 buses brought almost $7,200 in this auction. We closed that auction Tuesday night, and that was just a great thing for Lee County Public Schools. So we added an agenda item for action approval this evening to dispose of some more stuff that we anticipate, buses and other equipment that we anticipate being able to get more than $500 for, and seeking your approval there. So great news on that front. Updating you on establishing attendance areas. One of the things that we are in the process of doing is requesting a facility plan that we can put out for bid. That's in the action items also, but we are going to continue to look at attendance lines, attendance areas. Mr. Early, if you could grab that back there real quickly. I'm going to show you some of the information that we have been working on. And this is, you have to bear with me as we work through this because I'm working from a distance. But these are the enrollments at our 11 schools. This is as of May. So you can see the student counts. And one of the things that we've done, and we can make these larger as we go through this process, but each one of these has a different shape for high school students, a different shape for middle school students, and a different shape for elementary. Different colors by school. So what we've done is taken a look at where students are located. In previous board meeting, I believe it was July, I shared with you some information we had pulled from Power School just to show you some very, I'm going to say, gross information about where attendance was in each one of the schools. This is much more detailed. This is what we use for transportation to help us define routes and, I want to say, general service to our community. So with that being said, I'm just going to show you briefly some of the, what they call layers, if I can do it from here. And I'm going to turn off the middle school and high school students. Not that they're not important, but I really want to focus on our schools where elementaries are concerned with attendance lines. So that being said, here is Dryden's attendance. So if you look, Dryden are these little purple dots. So everywhere that you see a dot, a square, a pink square, is a student that attends Dryden Elementary. look at some of the areas from which we provide transportation that these students are going to drive. Okay, now let's go back on the flip side of this and let me grab another one. Let's look at Flatwoods. So as we look at Flatwoods, and these zones that you see here, what this is basically reflective of what we are currently living. This is not a proposed zone. This is kind of based on transportation routes that we provide. This is a general idea of where people live and where they're attending school. So you can see the yellow dots are Flatwoods. Not terribly surprising until you get further over into students from Dryden that we're transporting all the way to Flatwoods. So there's one example. Let's go to Elk Knob. This is the last one I want to show you, just for your information. All these little green dots are students that attend Elk Knob. Now, you saw this on the graphic that we shared from Power School, but again, this is the granular detail that we can get from GIS and also from our transportation department. But I mean, look at the number of students from Elk Knob that live as far away as practically Rose Hill. That in some instances are catching shuttle buses, if you will, that are getting off one bus to get on another to get to where they need to go. Needless to say, from an administrative standpoint, that's a concern where we have students getting off of a bus at any location other than the school or their house. So that's one of the things. It's a transportation efficiency conversation. It's a safety conversation, but then it's also, I'm going to say, a budgetary conversation of, you know, how do we budget based on enrollment in those areas when we have so much overlap. So we're going to pose this as part of the facility study that we're requesting permission in the action discussion to put out for a request for proposals. And this will be part of that. So staff has been working on this. We're aware of issues. We're trying to make sure that we're maximizing our investment but still servicing our community. But this will be a conversation that will be put before the board in coming months, but just not right now. Any questions? All right, the nice thing that I have is a reminder that tomorrow we will be dismissing at 12:05 in all Lee County public schools. And just, we've sent out an all-call, administration's aware of it, but just wanted to make sure that from this forum it was again shared that we will be dismissing at 12:05 tomorrow. And make sure if you have questions, contact the school, contact transportation, and we'll go from there.
Next on the agenda is unfinished business. Anything under that?
No, sir.
Then we'll go on to action and discussion items. The first item will be final review of school board policy GCBD-BR staff attendance.
I'm going to refer back to board docs, which is up on the screen. If you're interested in a particular policy, something that the board's considering, these items that are in board packets are available online. We have, with the support of technology staff, made this policy available online. I have met with the faculties at 8 schools to discuss this at length. And from the proposal that we presented in August to the proposal that we're presenting now, we've made some minor modifications. And that was based on feedback that we received from those input sessions. The things primarily, as you'll notice on the first page, is we've added a section called professional leave. Nowhere in school board policy did we define professional leave that we support our staff, support staff or teachers or administrators to get better at their trade, to get better at whatever they do. So we really defined professional leave, indicated that you don't have to take sick leave or vacation or paid leave in order to attend a conference or an activity that could develop a skill set. Added that. Also, one of the things that we've changed from this August meeting until now is paid leave. As proposed in August, we were going from 4 days to 2 paid days. With some feedback from a variety of staff, we've changed that. If you've been with Lee County Public Schools for 5 years, then in your 6th year, you would get, instead of 2 paid leave days, you would get 3. So you would get a day and a half per half contract year. So if you have a 10-month contract, after 5 months, you get a day and a half. So that would be 3. We've increased the cap from 4 to 6, that you can carry a maximum of 6 days, 6 paid leave days over annually. If you have those days would then transfer to sick leave rather than losing them if you are up against the cap. Sick leave accumulation stayed the same. Again, the reason that we've done that is to take a look at providing the opportunity for individuals to accumulate sick leave, but then also protecting the school board's investment in staff and, I'm going to say, servicing our students. So those accumulation totals did not change. Vacation leave, we changed one thing there. Got some feedback from staff that interpretations of the previous policy, we originally proposed year one that you would get 10 vacation days. We changed that to 12. We originally had a cap of 15 that you could earn. As proposed, this is 18 days. But in order to honor prior commitments, if you were hired prior to July 1st, 2001, and this is in policy, you would get 20 vacation days. That's reflective of practice that we've had in place, and just want to make sure that we don't take days away from staff. The maximum number of days that can be carried over in any given year is 5. So then you would have 18 plus 5. The most you could ever have in a year would be 23. So again, honoring the 20 of the past, but the most you can still carry over would be 5. The leave change, all that stayed the same, and we added section L that was leave without pay. There was really no designation for staff if they were with us and they were in a mission critical position that they could take leave without pay with approval and not impact their employment status. So that we've got a clause in there to cover that. I appreciate Mr. Sturgill helping us review these policies and the time that he's invested in that. So with that being said, administration recommends approval.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept school board policy GCBD-BR staff attendance as proposed by the superintendent?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second it.
Second. Nope, sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is action, if any, to approve disposal of surplus property for school board policy DN, disposal of surplus items.
On this one, if you look at item C on your agenda, this is related to what I just mentioned about the online auction. We have a list of items that we would like to dispose of. As you can see, there's a variety of vehicles here, from trucks to Crown Vics to buses to van, Impalas. There's a variety of vehicles here that candidly are sitting at the maintenance transportation shop, and we really needed to get some space, and these are vehicles that are not being used, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we have a motion to accept school board policy DN, disposal of surplus items. As a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I skipped one, so I'm going to go back. That's what old age and bad eyesight did to you. Final review of school board policy GCBD-BR1, staff attendance incentive.
This policy changed very little, got feedback from staff. This is again intended to incentivize attendance, that if somebody's accumulated a leave for whatever reason, then if they have certain amounts of leave, that we can pay that out before retirement and incentivize individuals to accumulate leave and be responsible with that, which of course helps us in the classroom. Nothing changed on this from the time that we proposed it last month until now. But one of the things that I want to point out in this policy is this is a decision that would be made in February on an annual basis, dependent upon enrollment holding, where we are with revenues, how all that's holding as to how much money would be available, and all that's clearly defined in the policy. So administration recommends approval.
Do we have a motion for acceptance of school board policy GCBD-BR1, staff attendance incentive?
Make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 4 to 1, motion carries. Now we'll go ahead to the next item. Approve partial funding school resource officers, SROs, at Lehigh, Thomas Walker High, and Jonesville Middle.
Administration is recommending that we partially fund positions in collaboration with the town of Pennington, which we already do, but also to partner with the town of Jonesville, and also to supplement the grant that is being funded by the Sheriff's Office. Currently 2 resource officers, one at Thomas Walker and one at Lehigh, are being provided to the Sheriff's Office. With this additional funding, it helps offset grant funds that are diminishing, as well as it would allow Sheriff Parsons to have a deputy that would be available when school's not in session. Currently, we have SROs 180 days a year. With this investment, it would allow the sheriff to have a deputy 260 days a year. So with the investment he's made in our partnership, then he could then have a road deputy for 80 additional days as an investment from the county and partnership between us and them. As you can see, proposed Jonesville and the sheriff's office, the dollar amounts, the total comes to almost $81,000. It's a good investment, in my opinion, to have a school resource officer in a building, and this ties back to not just having an officer in the building as much as it is the education piece that they provide, the visibility, but then also the safety side of things that are provided by having a school resource officer, a armed deputy in a building. As presented, administration recommends approval.
So we have a motion to approve partial funding of school resource officers at Lee High School, Thomas Walker High School, and Jonesville Middle School.
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a little concern about budgetary issues. You know, the continued funding, because the first year I was on the board, that unfortunately had to be one of the positions that we did end up cutting. And just making sure that we do have the finances to fund it in the future.
Administration is recommending approval of this, and that being a consideration with the savings that we realized at the end of last year, and I want to say with enrollment holding as is currently, and the funding that's coming from the state, even with the possibility of losing the 2% funding, I think this is something that we can carry for at least the next 2 to 3 years, looking at a biennial budget. But of course, we can't project what comes out of Richmond. To say that this is going to be committed to long-term from administration or from the school board, everybody that I've talked to understands that this is dependent upon state funding. As you're aware, the Board of Supervisors funded us at a minimum this year, so it's not like we have a lot of extra money to spend. So we're being very diligent with how we spend money, but appreciate the concern, but believe we can address that.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is action, if any, to approve a contract to Modular Technologies Incorporated to purchase 2 mobile units for placement at Flatwoods Elementary and Rose Hill Elementary.
From the memo that you have in front of you, we're recommending the purchase of 2 mobile units that we currently have leased with the company in order to get here in early October. This has been a tenuous process, to say the least. We started bidding this in early June and have, I'm going to say, exercised, I'm going to say utilized every resource I'm aware of. And this is the best opportunity that we have for Lee County Public Schools. We originally were looking at 7 modular units, but 2 gets us started, and this is, we're recommending transitioning from a lease to purchase to just a straight out purchase because it's a better investment. We need the space, and this is a need, and we'll deal with other issues as we go along, but this is a step in the right direction, so administration recommends approval.
I mean, we have to have room. We don't have enough room in their school rooms. Nobody wants to buy modular units, but that's kind of what we're stuck with. All right, do we have a motion to approve a contract to Modular Technologies Incorporated to purchase 2 mobile units for placement at Flatwoods Elementary and Rose Hill Elementary?
Make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question, how soon after delivery will they be ready to be occupied?
A day at most. I think the setup on those, there's some preliminary work that we're going to have done. I would anticipate from delivery till we have students in probably less than a week, just to make sure that we've got ADA access, all the compliance issues set up.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is action, if any, to award a contract to Evergreen Solutions to conduct a salary study.
You have before you a memo recommending a salary study, and what this will do is allow us to really take a hard look at our salary scales across the board, how we're compensating everybody, bus drivers, support staff, teachers, 10-month, 11-month, and you have a sample study here that was done by this company for another school division in the Commonwealth. You also see the scope of work that they will provide. For the dollar amount that's being requested, $35,000, this will be a tremendous resource for us for years to come. It sets us in a good place with being able to compare salaries from an objective company who does this for a living. So administration recommends approval.
Do we have a motion to award a contract to Evergreen Solutions to conduct a salary study?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is action, if any, to issue a request for proposals for a facility study.
As indicated earlier, with the purchase of 2 mobile units and the need to address attendance areas, and I'm going to say the enrollment at schools and the current status of facilities, we really need a comprehensive facility study. This was something that, due to the possible cost, administration recommends doing a request for proposal to ensure compliance with procurement.
Do we have a motion for approval of a request for proposal for a facility study?
Do we elaborate a little bit on the amount of buildings we have in the county?
Currently, at the 13 sites that we have, and I'm saying 11 schools, school board office, transportation, we have over 120 buildings on our 13 sites. So it's a tremendous amount of buildings, and candidly, we need to take a look at, when we're talking about mobile units, if we anticipate having student enrollment continue to either hold or increase over the coming years, then do we need to take a look at bricks and mortar or modular units, mobile units, a better investment?
How does this differ from the DMME facility study?
This is a comprehensive look at everything. As presented, this would look at athletic facilities, this would look at everything from any facility that the school board owns, as opposed to the DMME is simply looking at anything that could be an energy savings, roofs, windows, doors. So this will be done in conjunction with that, but DMME is not going to look at the condition of our football fields, our tracks, our parking lots, sidewalks. They're going to look at just where they can save us money on, heating, cooling. This would be a comprehensive look across the board.
I move that we issue a request for proposal for facility study.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is action, if any, to approve salary scales for the technology department.
One of the things that we're in the process of doing, as the salary study indicates, is we're in the process of taking a hard look at our salary scales, and we don't have currently a definitive plan for a technology staff of how to structure those salaries. This defines some roles. We've talked to Doris Miles, who's our interim coordinator of technology, about roles and responsibilities and what would be appropriate staffing for that. So you can see this clearly delineates 5 positions and also defines steps and salaries for those 5 positions. So this will help us a lot with any hiring that we do throughout the course of this fiscal year.
Do we have a motion to approve salary scale for the technology department?
I make a motion to approve salary scale.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is action, if any, to approve school board policy GAA staff time schedules.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a VSBA policy that we do not have on the books. This one, it helps us administratively define overtime and compensatory or comp time clearly defined. And again, this is a VSBA policy. This is not something that we have developed. This is something that has the protections provided by them and has been vetted by their staff. So,
Do we have a motion to approve school board policy GAA staff time schedules?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is action, if any, to approve school board policy GCBD-BR2 leave sharing program.
One of the things that heard repeatedly as was visiting with various staffs is the idea that we've always been, staff has been allowed to transfer sick days up to a maximum of 10 sick days in the course of any year. Could not find that in policy, and I mean, I know it's occurred, but we couldn't find anything that definitely defined that. So we found some resources, went back through, and that's where this policy's come from. As presented, there's basically participation would be limited to 2 roles, as a donor or as a recipient. You can donate an unlimited number of days. As a recipient, there's some criteria that you have to have already used your sick leave, paid leave, and any earned vacation time would be on the leave without pay status. And then once you've done that, then you would be eligible to receive days. There's some language in here to ensure HIPAA compliance, to make sure that if you're participating, you know that you're divulging some health information to a group that has agreed to participate. This is not going to be a sick leave bank that would be administered. There would be a need that would be put out to the group, and each individual then could decide how many days they want to donate to that individual. So this is a very thorough policy, in my opinion, and again has been reviewed by Mr. Sturgill, and I think is a good thing for our staff.
Do we have a motion to approve school board policy?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You will be able to designate who you're giving your time to?
Yes, sir. This will not go into a sick bank. This is by no means designing something where you give 100 days to something and it sits there. You will designate who you give it to, and then we will have clearly defined in here, if they are not used for that purpose, they will be returned to the individual. You know, there was nothing real clear in policy that, you know, if the 8 of us decided to give 10 days each to an individual and that individual used 24 days, did somebody lose all 10, or was it distributed over the group who was contributing? This defines it clearly as to who gets what and how that's taken care of.
So also too, for example, if I needed 10 donated days, then 10 days of my VRS would not be accredited to my retirement.
Correct. You would not. This is not credible. It would not be credible compensation that would go towards VRS because you're getting donated days, as proposed. And this is action, if any. It can be a first review if there needs to be further discussion. But again, these are not days that the individual is working, and the reason we phrased it that way is it wouldn't go towards retirement if you're getting days from somebody else.
Do we have a motion to approve school board policy GCBD-BR2 leave sharing program?
I move that we table this till next month.
Okay. Got a second on that, to table it?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is action, if any, to approve school board policy IAA-BR2, reporting of student progress.
Some minor clarifications on this policy. As you'll see, basically some of it was formatting, but the biggest piece of this was defining clearly how many grades a teacher should have in the course of a grading period. There's some language, I want to say, that I've heard from individuals. Again, it's more of a rumor as far as to being in print, but for grades 2 through 8, I recommend having 6 to 9 grades per course per grading period. So that's in a 9-week period, having 6 to 9 grades. For students in grades 9 through 12, having 12 to 8 grades per 9-week grading period. The other piece of this is also about how quickly teachers grade papers. There's language that some of our administrators cite, but there's no clear policy on that. So this policy defines it as being from the time the student turns in an assignment to the time that it's graded and returned to the student is 5 days. That is basically a week. Buys a teacher a weekend. Not that I'm encouraging teachers to work on weekends, but it gives you that time. And then also a statement in there of if a teacher gives an assignment that requires more than 5 days to grade, which with some term papers or other projects it may take longer, with principal approval you can have up to 10 days. That gives our administration the ability that if they receive a phone call, they can say they're aware of that and be able to let the parent know what's going on. So as presented, administration recommends approval.
We have a motion to approve school board policy
Does that also include when grades are posted?
Yes, ma'am, when it returned to the student and also posted on parent portal.
Okay.
Intent here is to improve communication between parents, teachers, and students.
You're
What is
talking Power School, right?
Yes. what's
Well,
the
parent
time-
portal is parent school,
What's the
yes.
timeframe for the,
5 days.
for them to be posted, graded and posted?
Graded and posted, yes, ma'am. Good question, sorry, I didn't mention it.
Do we have a motion to approve school board policy IAA-BR2, reporting of student progress?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action, if any, to approve school board policy IKF-BR, graduation and classroom.
This is one of our processes we're going through, looking at school board policy, transitioning from the old LC language to this more consistent language with school board. The language that we've got in here also clarifies when we do calculations for grades, for class rank, if you will. Currently, we have as a practice, not in a school board policy, that if a student's grade is calculated as in December and graduation doesn't occur until May or June. This policy clearly says that grades will be calculated for class rank on May 1st or 3 weeks before school ends. So that clearly defines when grades can be cut off. From a technology standpoint, I understand back in the day why we cut it off in December, but with Power School and some of our technology advances, this makes it a whole lot quicker for turnaround. So the administration recommends approval.
We have a motion to approve school board policy IKF-BR, graduation and classroom.
I make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I will say that this is a good thing to be put into play because it also, when you apply for college, sometimes that was a problem because your GPA was kind of not where maybe it should be because your grades were kind of cut off in December. So this I think is very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Did we already do that?
We've done a motion.
Okay. You did a motion.
You've done a
You did
motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Vote.
All right. All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. First review of changing high school schedules to a 4x4 block schedule format for the 2017-2018 school year.
In early August, we did 3 public hearings, and from those public hearings, received positive comments from the public. Have not heard, I'm going to say, many negative comments since then. So took the proposal that we had used as a draft when we did those public hearings, and I'm not going to go through a lot of the details, but the advantages and the disadvantages. There's a lot of advantages from an instructional standpoint of in a 90-minute period, you have more opportunities to teach different ways. But then also on the flip side of that, there's disadvantages that if you have a teacher who's a stand and deliver teacher, if they lecture for 45 minutes and then try to turn students loose for 45 minutes, it ends up being a problem. So there's a lot of professional development that needs to go into place with this as a consideration. This is a first review, but initial information I want to share with you. Sue Ann Bales did an incredible job, and she's surveyed staff at all 3 high schools with the assistance of the principals. The 2 high schools, I say 3 high schools, 2 high schools and Career Tech Center. At Lee High, the vote to stay 7-period would be 19, go to 4x4 is 15, and then undecided to 11, so 19 to 15 to 11. At Thomas Walker, the vote was 7, 21 to 8, so Thomas Walker prefers to go to a 4x4. Career Tech Center was 7, 12, 14. The total for that is 33 of our teachers prefer to stay on a 7-period day, 48 prefer to go to a block schedule, 4x4 block schedule, and 23 prefer the weather undecided. So almost the number that prefer to stay is the number that are undecided. So that's the first review on this is, we're going to continue to take feedback on this, provide it to you next month as a final review for consideration, and then go from there. Any questions?
What's the time frame it needs to be done in?
Pending board approval, a final review next month, and they also hold that here, and we're probably 60-40 on next year would be appropriate, and I think that would be more than appropriate. We would need to bring in some staff from other school divisions that are currently using 4x4. I was in a meeting last week where there were 4 school divisions. We were one of them, and 3 of the 4 were on block. So, you know, it would help us in the region on a variety of conversations instructionally, but timeframe, we could easily, in my opinion, roll this out by June, but we're not going to force it. If staff's not comfortable with it by March or April, in my opinion, we take a knee and do it the next year. But do as much professional development between now and, I'm going to say, a decision time as we possibly can.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Move on to board comments. Do they have any comments about anything? No? All right. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A1, and pending and threatened litigation, that's the Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A7.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.